The teardown of the IQOO NEO 11 Ultimate, the king of value, is finally here. IQOO really took a page out of Apple's design book, just flipping the camera module horizontally and selling it as a new model. So did they really just change the camera placement for the internal structure? You'll find out after watching the teardown. That is really quite a bold move, don't you think? The new Neo 11 Ultimate has just officially gone on sale, so I dropped 3,399 yuan on a 12GB plus 256GB model to face the wind. Wait, hold on, that's not right. Isn't this just the standard Neo 11 colorway? Crap, I've actually gone and bought the wrong phone. Okay guys, I've rebought the IQOO NEO 11 Ultimate in the correct riding the wind colorway. Make sure you don't end up making the same mistake when you go to buy yours. It's not really my fault though. The front just says Neo 11. It only says Ultimate on the side. Comparing the exteriors, the most obvious change on the Neo 11 is the camera module. It went from vertical to horizontal. I wonder if you guys prefer the horizontal or vertical look. Plus, the actual area of the module is definitely a bit smaller than the last generation, so it's less likely to get in the way when you're using an external cooling fan. As for the screen, it uses the latest domestic f2 light-emitting material. It supposedly keeps 2K clarity with only 1.5K power consumption, and they've upgraded to some new blue eye protection material. Hey, that matches up. The blue machine we predicted in the last episode actually showed up. When you compare it directly to the previous Neo 11 model, the screen brightness is truly a night and day difference. The bezels are also noticeably narrower than the last generation, and the chassis now features a much more pronounced curve. Alright, I think that covers everything regarding the exterior for the moment. But does the internal hardware look like it's just a reskinned IQOO NEO 11? Let's dive right into the teardown process. First, we need to heat it on a heating pad at 91 degrees for 2.5 minutes, then use some alcohol and an opening pick to carefully remove the back cover. The entire back cover panel is crafted from a premium AG glass material. I honestly really love this specific colorway. It captures that gust of wind aesthetic you see in anime. However, when I compare it to the last few generations, I still feel the pixel style from the Stone brand looks the absolute best. I'm curious to know, which Neo generation do you guys think looks the best? Alright, let's go ahead and keep on tearing this down. Compared to the previous Neo 11, even though the motherboard is smaller, not a single component is missing. We've got the flash, IR blaster, and ambient light sensor, and there's even a top speaker integrated into the motherboard cover. I measured it, and it's a 1015 spec, and what's under the motherboard cover isn't wireless charging, it's a cooling film. Next, let's remove the cameras. The main sensor is the same Sony LYT700V as the last gen, and the wide angle is the same 8-megapixel one too. Now, regarding the front-facing camera, it remains exactly the same as the Neo 11. If I were being diplomatic, I would say that it maintains its consistently high standard. If I weren't, well, I can be quite blunt, so I think I will just keep my mouth shut. Next, let us carefully take out the motherboard and disconnect all the ribbon cables. Because the camera modules are arranged in a horizontal layout this time around, the motherboard's overall vertical length has become significantly shorter. If you compare it directly to the Neo 11, you can clearly see that the Ultimate's motherboard surface area is definitely much smaller. Relatively speaking, this Ultimate Edition features a much higher level of integration, and despite that, it still utilizes a single-layer motherboard design to ensure better heat dissipation. The engineers and designers at IQOO really know their stuff when it comes to this. But honestly, if all of that engineering effort was just to change the grip feel, I really don't think it's worth it. So what is the actual purpose behind this? We are going to have to keep on digging to find out. The processor found on the motherboard this time is a brand new chip known as the Dimensity 9500M. This isn't the 9500 band from the IQOO 15T. The M stands for Master, which is a full-powered 9500 with deep tuning. This 9500M probably stands for Medium. Spec-wise, it's down 1 GPU core out of 12, and the L3 cache is cut from 60 MB to 12 MB. Correspondingly, the benchmark score is about 300,000 points lower. Plus, it doesn't have the Q3 chip from the 15T. It's still the same Q2 chip as the Neo 11. The specs are a tier lower, but it does benchmark slightly better than the Neo 11 Snapdragon 8 Elite. If you care more about performance and photography, I think you could actually look at the previous gen IQOO 13. I checked the price on Zhuan and it's only 2,688 yuan, over 1,000 yuan cheaper than a new phone. At this price, you definitely won't get specs this good in a new model. Plus, phones from Zhuan undergo multiple official inspections and come with a 7-day no questions asked return policy and a 1-year warranty, which is way more reliable than buying from an individual seller. Okay, we're done with the top. Let's look at the massive battery in the middle. The capacity has reached a full 9,100 mAh, which is a final 600 mAh increase over the last gen. Let's take a look at the battery manufacturer, and it turns out it's still our old friend, Dongguan Empirix Technology Limited. When we compare this current generation's battery to the previous one, it becomes quite obvious that with this capacity, the battery would inevitably encroach on the space reserved for the vertical camera module. Consequently, they were forced to completely redesign the camera layout and shorten the motherboard in the vertical direction. Only by implementing these specific changes were they able to accommodate a larger battery area, and so that is the actual underlying reason for the shift to a horizontal module. Looking at it this way, IQOO's changes are nothing like iPhone's. Okay, let's move on to the bottom port section. The speaker at the bottom is fully integrated into the cover plate, and it utilizes the exact same 1015 specification as the top speaker, just like we had in the previous generation. Now let's go ahead and perform a quick audio comparison. So which one do you guys think sounds better? Oh, next, let's disconnect all the cables on the bottom port and take out the subboard. This generation supports 100W. WRW wired charging and bypass charging, which powers the motherboard directly during gaming to bypass the battery so it won't get as hot. Finally, let's remove the motor. It's the same X-axis 0809 linear motor as the last gen, but the brand has changed to Hengdian DMC. Looking at it, even though it's not big, it's got plenty of tricks up its wow. They say it's got 4D haptic feedback, though I'm not exactly sure how they pulled off 4D with an X-axis motor. Basically, there are 3 intensity levels, so the vibrations in games will definitely feel more layered. Plus, there's a great upgrade for gamers. The touch chip has been upgraded to the Synaptics S3910V, the same one in the IQOO 15 Ultra, so it'll be more responsive for FPS games and stuff. Alright, that's the full internal layout of the IQOO NEO 11 Extreme Edition. Let's put it back together. Keen viewers likely noticed that versus the old Neo 11, this Extreme Edition performs about the same but has better battery life. After seeing this teardown, are any Neo 5 owners tempted to upgrade? 所以是都迷着说好像你